Welcome students. Today we are to start with chapter second, reproduction in lower and higher animals. As we have studied last year, the basic life processes seen in living organisms. One among them is reproduction. See, we are going to start here in question and answer form so that you can take it as a note later on. Question number one is definition. To start with is definition of reproduction. This we have done earlier, but here the definition is very important. It has to be word to word what is being given here. Reproduction is defined as the biological process of formation of new life form from pre-existing one. Here, what I mean to highlight is formation of new life forms from pre-existing life, that is a similar life. It means the offspring which is formed should exactly be same like that of the earlier one. That is, reproduction is the formation of new life form like itself. That is, formation of an offspring from the parent like itself. Characteristics of asexual reproduction. Now, why do we directly start with asexual reproduction? So listen, when we say reproduction, reproduction exists in two different forms in animals. One is asexual reproduction and other is sexual reproduction. To start with, our second question is to give characteristics of asexual reproduction. Number one, it does not involve fusion of two compatible gametes or sex cells. As you all know, gametes are the sex cells. These are haploid sex cells. And in asexual reproduction, there is no fusion of gametes or sex cells. Means it's uniparental. Only one parent is involved. Point number two, resulting in the production of genetically identical progeny from a single organism. Now, I like to highlight here production of genetically identical progeny. Progeny is offspring. Here, the offspring will be genetically similar, identical to the parent. Point number three, it inherits the genes of the parent. Inherit means the genes are transferred directly from the parents to the offspring. And such morphologically and genetically identical individuals are called clones. Now here the offsprings which are formed by asexual reproduction, they are known as clones. So what are clones? You may get a question likewise. कि clones क्या है? So clones are morphologically and genetically identical individuals. यानी जो externally and genetically similar है with their parents, they are called as clones. Their external and genetic makeup will be same like that of parents. Point number four, as there is no fusion of gametes, there is no variation, so no evolution seen due to asexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction does not lead to variation and then so no evolution. It will be giving pure line varieties, pure line offspring. Abhi, what do you mean by the term pure line? Pure line means the offsprings which are genetically and morphologically same from generation to generation. Point number five, it involves mitosis. See, as there is no fusion of gametes, it is uniparental, then the Cell division which takes place here is only mitosis. Question number 3. Note on different modes of asexual reproduction in animals. See, this is a brief question. It can be asked in the form of short answer or even a long answer where you have to explain any two modes of asexual reproduction. Now, the question is different modes of asexual reproduction in animals. Organisms choose to reproduce asexually by different modes or different ways. Here you can see three different modes: gemule formation, budding, and third is regeneration. I repeat, gemule formation, budding, and regeneration. Let us start with number one. Number one, budding. Sorry, number one, gemule formation. See, gemule. Here you can see the diagram for gemule formation. It is a diagram for gemule formation. The first type of asexual reproduction is gemule formation. There is a new term for your gemule is an internal bud formed only in sponges. Now, you all know sponges comes under the first category or the smallest phyla ever seen. Gemule is an internal bud which you can see in sponges. Sponges, they have a cell aggregate plant. And in cell aggregate pattern, we all know that the organism is made up of collection or aggregation of cells. And the name of those cells is given over here, archaeocytes. We can also call them as amoebocytes. These archaeocytes are capable of developing into a new organism. Archaeocytes, they are covered by a thick resistant layer, and this thick resistant layer is being secreted by these archaeocytes or amoebocytes. The formation of gemmules takes place in unfavorable conditions, means the conditions which are not prevailing the formation of sponges, means the conditions in which the sponges cannot reproduce, or you can say it is the dormant period. So under unfavorable conditions, gemmule formation takes place. And this formation takes place by secretion of a thick layer by these amoebocytes. On return of favorable conditions of water and temperature, the gemmules hatch out, means the gemmules break. And when these gemmules break, they develop into a new individual, that is a new organism. Here the example is Spongilla, which is one of the porifers. Here you can see the structure of gemmule. The gemmules are formed inside the archaeocyte. Here you can see there's a micropyle. There are spicules which surrounds the body of sponges, monoaxon spicules. Archaeocytes are the cells of sponges, and this archaeocyte forms a covering, a thick covering, and this thick covering here comes in the form of gemmule. And when this gemmule breaks, sponges are formed. Second type of asexual reproduction is budding. Here you can see budding takes place in organisms like hydra, corals, and many more ascidians. You all are familiar with the structure of hydra which is given here. In this process, you can see that in animals like hydra, a small outgrowth, you can see the outgrowth here. In animals like hydra, a small outgrowth is formed in the form of bud. You can see the outgrowth here. This outgrowth is called as bud. It develops as a bud which grows and forms tentacles. You can see this is a developing bud, and when this bud develops, it grows in the form of tentacle. It forms tentacles and develops into a new individual. You can see a new hydra is formed here. This process is called as budding. The young hydra then, in matured condition, separates or detaches from the parent, and it becomes a young hydra. And this is the way how a new organism is formed by means of budding. So in this you have to remember the very important thing, that is In this process, you can see a small outgrowth which produces on the body of parent. This outgrowth on development or on maturation will get separated from the parent and then can form a new individual. Now there's the third process which is called as regeneration. Now this process of regeneration you can see in many organisms, you can see them in lower as well as higher organisms. You can see this in hydra, you can see this in planarians, you can see this in reptiles, you can see this in echinoderms. Now I think you all know all these phyla with their examples. So I need not repeat them. यहाँ पे सिर्फ देखो यहाँ पर हम example लेंगे hydra. In this process of regeneration, you can see that the organism can fundamentally repair. Now see here, these two terms are very important, repair or regrow. The meaning of regeneration is to repair or restore its lost or damaged parts. You can see this in animals like hydra and animals like planaria, which we have taken as examples. Here you can see this is the organism called planaria. And you all know this planaria comes under which phyla? Yes, correct. It is Platyhelminthes. Now in planaria, the process of sexual reproduction is fragmentation, but it also shows regeneration. Here in this, you can see, look, important part over here. This is the anterior part of hydra and this is the posterior part. See, this is anterior and this is the posterior part of hydra. Here in this diagram, you can see that this anterior part exerts a pull on posterior and posterior exerts a pull on anterior. These terms are very important here. Anterior end, you can see anterior part where the mouth part is present, it exerts a pull on the posterior, and because of this pulling process, a friction or a constriction takes place in between. You can see a cut yani constriction, it takes place in the middle part, splitting the body into two different parts. The body is split into two different parts. Okay, once again, I repeat. This is planaria, this is anterior, this is posterior part. Yeah, anterior part exerts a pull on posterior and posterior part exerts a pull on anterior, due to which the body of the planaria gets divided into two parts. Now this part is very important. See, here anterior part will form a posterior part and posterior part will form an anterior part. And in this way, from one parent, you get two planarias. From one parent, you get two planarias. So we highlight over here the anterior end exerts a pull on posterior end, resulting into a constriction in the middle part and splitting into two pieces. Each piece grows into a new planaria. That is, two clones of the original have been formed. Now I think the concept of clones is cleared over here. So these are the three different ways of asexual reproduction which takes place in animals. Now see, these are certain characteristics of. Now let us start with sexual reproduction in animals, and our question number 4 is characteristics of sexual reproduction in animals. Sexual reproduction. It is the process which involves the production of offspring by the formation and fusion of gametes. See here, there's a difference in asexual and sexual. In asexual, we have seen that there is no fusion of gametes, and in sexual reproduction, we highlight on this point fusion of gametes, and this process is called amphimixis. So do remember the definition of amphimixis here. It is formation and fusion of gametes. Point number 2. In animals, gamete formation primarily involves meiosis. In sexual reproduction, the cell division which takes place is meiosis, followed by mitosis. So in animals, genetic gamete formation primarily involves meiosis, and in asexual reproduction, there is only mitosis. Your point number three, it shows two main phases in the lifetime. It shows two main phases in the lifetime. The earlier juvenile phase. Now, your juvenile phase means physical growth phase. It is the phase which starts from the birth. This is the phase where the animals cannot reproduce sexually. So the first phase in the lifetime of every animal is juvenile phase. This is the phase in which there is physical growth which starts from the birth, and animals cannot reproduce sexually in this phase. The later on second phase is reproductive maturity phase. Reproductive maturity phase means the phase after physical growth, or you can say this is the phase of maturity or puberty where the animal can reproduce sexually. It involves growth and activity of the sex organs. The sex organs of the animal start maturing in this phase. After attaining sexual maturity, the animal exhibits various events. Means after attaining sexual maturity, that is sexual puberty, here the animals they come across to various events, namely pre-fertilization, fertilization, and post-fertilization events. Now see, the very important point to be marked over here is the very important part which you need to be marked over here is pre-fertilization phase. The meaning is gametogenesis and gamete formation. Means this is the phase in which there is formation of gametes. Gametogenesis means formation of gametes, and transfer of gametes takes place in this phase. Second, fertilization phase where there is fusion of male and female gametes. Third is post-fertilization event where there is formation of zygote, means after fertilization, after fusion of male and female gametes, there is formation of zygote and embryogenesis. Meaning of embryogenesis is formation of embryo. The sexually reproducing animals show various breeding patterns. Now, what do you mean by breeding patterns? Breeding pattern means the time period when the organism reproduce, or the period during which, or the period which is favorable for certain organisms to reproduce or for breeding. For example, goat, sheep, donkey, these all are seasonal breeders. They do not breed all throughout the year. Example, goat, sheep and donkey are seasonal breeders. They do not reproduce or breed throughout the year. While humans and apes comes under monkeys, these we you while humans and apes are continuous breeders. They can breed throughout the year. Humans and apes are continuous breeders. They are perennial breeders. They can reproduce or breed throughout the year. So these are four different characteristics of sexual reproduction. At least four out of them you have to know. Now, as we have seen in point number 3 and point number 4, here again you may get two different questions. What are the two main phases in the life of sexually reproducing organisms? So two major phases are juvenile phase and reproductive phase. What are the events which take place in sexually reproducing organisms after attaining maturity are pre-fertilization, fertilization and post-fertilization events. Then a question arises in point number 5. What are the two breeding patterns seen in sexually reproducing organisms? First is seasonal breeders and second is continuous breeders. Now let us come across the next question. Note on events of sexual reproduction. Now in this chapter we are going to study topics according to this sequence. According to the events of sexual reproduction, the topics are been distributed in this chapter. First topic is gametogenesis, where we are going to study formation of gametes and obviously male and female reproductive systems. So the first part of this chapter deals with gametogenesis, that is formation of gametes and male and female reproductive systems. Second part is insemination. Insemination is ejaculation of semen in the vagina of female. That is, it is a process in which the male reproductive fluid is inserted in the vagina, which is the female reproductive part. Third is internal fertilization. Here we are going to study about the fusion of male and female gamete or the process of fertilization. Next topic is zygote formation and embryogenesis. Here it deals with the formation of zygote after fertilization and formation of embryo, that is different events or phases of formation of embryo. Point number 5 or topic number 5 is gestation. Gestation is pregnancy, where we are going to study all the three trimesters. Trimesters means period of 3 months each. Total comes to 9 months. And parturition. Parturition is the process of delivery of the child. So in this way, the entire chapter will be divided into these 5 events, followed by birth control measures and sexually transmitted diseases. To start with sexual reproduction in organisms, here the first part is primary sex organs, male and female. Primary sex organs, male and female. Testes produce sperm and ovary produces eggs or ovum. Primary sex organs in males is testes and in females it's ovary. Now here a term comes, secondary sexual characters. Now, what do you mean by secondary sexual characters? Secondary sexual characters in male and female can be externally differentiated by certain specific features. So these are the characters which can be externally differentiated by certain specific features. Means, due to these characters or on the basis of this character, one can distinguish male and female. These are also called as sexual dimorphic characters. Let us see these characters in males and in females. In males, presence of beard, mustache, hair on the chest, muscular body, enlarged larynx are secondary sexual characters. While in females, these characters can be developed in the form of breast, broader pelvis, high pitch voice, etc. So it's very important here to know what are the secondary sexual characters in male and in female. Hello. Hi, so our next question is, describe male reproductive system in man. Now it can be asked as a brief question. It consists of primary male organs called as testes, some accessory ducts, and the glands which form internal and external genitalia. Male reproductive system in man. It consists of primary sex organ called testes, accessory duct, and glands which form internal and external genitalia. This is a diagram for the male reproductive system. I want you all to draw this diagram in your notebook. See, the diagram is quite clear with all the labelings given here. Here you can see these are pair of testes. These are pair of testes. One on either side. Pair of testes. Next to testes, you can see on posterolateral side, that is below and on the sides of each testis, you find epididymis. This one of the accessory ducts called as epididymis. Epididymis is further extended upwards up to urethra in the form of vasa deferens. This vasa deferens further joins with a gland called seminal vesicle. But you can see here, before joining with seminal vesicle, vasa deferens joins with ejaculatory duct. Vasa deferens, before entering here into urethra, it joins with seminal vesicle. And when this joins with seminal vesicle, here it forms a duct. And this duct is known as ejaculatory duct. Next to ejaculatory duct is the part called as urethra. And urethra runs along a part known as penis. So these are the different ducts which comes in male reproductive system. So male reproductive system consists of testes, ducts like vasa deferens, epididymis, ejaculatory duct, urethra and penis. Out of this, you can see vasa deferens, testes, epididymis and ejaculatory duct, they come under internal genitalia, whereas penis and a pouch known as scrotum in which the testes are located. Here you cannot see the scrotum clearly in the diagram, but penis along with the scrotum, which is a bag carrying testes, comes under external genitalia. So let us now start with internal genitalia. Now here in internal genitalia, you can see pair of testes, accessory ducts like vasa deferens, ejaculatory duct, epididymis, urethra and penis. Accessory glands, seminal vesicle, Cooper's gland, prostate gland. Number 1. Testes. Testes occur in pairs. These have mesodermal origin, means they are originated from mesoderm. You can find testes present in the lower abdominal cavity, that is in our pelvic cavity. They are located in a pouch called as scrotum. Just before I told you that testes are present inside a bag and the name of that bag is scrotum. During early fetal life, testes develop in abdomen cavity and later they descend into the scrotal sac through a passage called inguinal canal. Now, see, this concept is a vast concept, but you can understand here in one way, like earlier testis is said to be located in our abdomen, but during 7 to 8 months of fetal development, that is when the male child or the male fetus is in the form of embryo of 6 to 7 or 7 to 8 months, at that time it is located in the abdomen. But later on, they come out of the abdomen, okay, and settle themselves inside the scrotum. यानी after 6 to 7 months वो abdomen से निकल के they come inside the scrotum. From abdomen to scrotum there is a canal, एक रास्ता है, and the name of that canal is inguinal canal. Through this canal they come from abdomen to scrotum during their fetal development. Each testis is oval in shape, 4 to 5 centimeter long, 2 to 3 centimeter wide, and 3 centimeters thick. These are the dimensions of testis. Structural and functional unit of testis. Now our testis has been made up of certain units of the cells. They are called as seminiferous tubules. The functional units of testis are seminiferous tubules. Now all these seminiferous tubules, they form a network or a bundle. Okay. At the posterior side, that is the lower side of the testis, all these seminiferous tubules, they form a bundle. And this bundle, or you can see a network of seminiferous tubule, is rete testis. It is called as rete testis. So, testis unit is known as seminiferous tubules. These seminiferous tubules are at the posterior surface of the testis form a network, and this network is called rete testis. 12 to 20 fine tubules come out of this rete testis, and these tubules are called vasa efferentia. Now this vasa efferentia, they carry the sperms. Now as we all know, testes are the male reproductive organs and they produce sperms, which are the male gametes. So from testes, the sperms are first carried by vasa efferentia, which are the tubes coming out of rete testis. They carry the sperms from the testes, and where they open here in epididymis. Vasa efferentia is not seen there in the diagram, but you can clearly see epididymis, which is present on posterolateral side of testis. I repeat, present on posterolateral side of testis. So now the sperms are collected here in epididymis. You can see here ellus of testis, that is the lateral section of testis. In this, the parts are clear. You can see vasa deferens, vasa efferentia, rete testis. Now what I mean to say is, all these you can see here, these are the lobe tubules, and these tubules are seminiferous tubules. All these seminiferous tubules, they form a network here called as rete testis. These rete testis give out tubules outside, and they are called vasa efferentia. All these vasa efferentia, they join here at epididymis, and epididymis further joins to form vasa deferens. So ellus of testis, this diagram is also quite important, so you need to draw this diagram in your notebook. Next is epididymis. It is a long and highly coiled tube which is differentiated into an upper caput, middle corpus and lower chorda. I repeat, ये जो epididymis है, it is divided into 3 parts. उसका जो upper part है, the upper part, head region is caput, middle part is corpus, and lower part is called chorda epididymis. Now what is the function of this epididymis? We know that via vasa efferentia, the sperms are collected in epididymis. In epididymis, the sperms undergo maturation. So maturation of sperms takes place in epididymis. The function of epididymis is maturation of sperms. So sperms undergo maturation in epididymis. The next part is vasa difference. We all know that epididymis further extends. You can see there in the earlier diagram that epididymis further extends to form vasa deferens. It's a tube, long tube called as vasa deferens. The epididymis extends further to form a longer tube called as vasa deferens. Vasa deferens travels up to the abdominal cavity and loops over the ureter to open into urethra. So where does this enter? It enters in the abdominal cavity and there it goes and joins the urethra. Ejaculatory duct. Just before we have discussed that vasa deferens before entering the urethra, vasa deferens before entering the urethra joins with the seminal vesicle and forms ejaculatory duct. I repeat, vasa deferens before entering the urethra joins with the seminal vesicle and forms ejaculatory duct. So this is about ejaculatory duct. So before opening into urethra, vasa deferens joins the duct of seminal vesicle to form ejaculatory duct. Next part is urethra. Ejaculatory duct, you know that it passes through the prostate gland and opens into urethra. Urethra provides a common passage. Now here is a very important part which says that urethra in males is called as urinogenital tract. In males में urethra को बोला जाता है urinogenital tract. The reason is that it provides a common passage for the urine and semen. यूरिन एंड सीमेन दोनों का ये कॉमन पैसेज होता है मेल्स में एंड दैट इज द रीजन इसे बोला जाता है यूरिनोजेनिटल डक्ट. In males, the urethra is long and extended to the penis. Now, this is an important part again here called penis. It opens to the outside by an opening called as urethral orifice or urethral meatus. Now, urethra has got an opening, and the opening of urethra is called urethral meatus or urethral orifice. All the accessory ducts except urethra are present in pairs. You can see अभी तक जो हमने देखा है all were present in pair exception is urethra. So these are all the organs coming under internal genitalia in male. Now here next question arises, what are the accessory glands in male? Number one, seminal vesicle. We know that the seminal vesicle is present on posterior side of urinary bladder. Diagram में हमने देखा है the position of seminal vesicle where it is on the posterior side of urinary bladder. You can see here seminal vesicle present on the posterior side of urinary bladder. It secretes an alkaline seminal fluid. So fluid which is secreted by the seminal vesicle is called as seminal fluid, which contains fructose, fibrinogen and prostaglandin. These are the three chemicals which are present in the seminal fluid, and it's very, very important. Majority of the part of the semen, which is the reproductive fluid in males में जो reproductive fluid है semen, उसका majority part is the seminal fluid. What is the function of fructose? Fructose being a sugar, it provides energy for the sperm movement. Fibrinogen, it acts as a coagulant. So it coagulates the semen. Coagulate यानी क्या? It converts a liquid semen into a semi-solid fluid. It coagulates the semen for the quick propulsion in the vagina, means the quick process of movement in the vagina. Prostaglandins stimulates reverse peristalsis in vagina and uterus, aiding faster movement of the sperm towards the egg in the female body. Instead of this, you can also say that prostaglandins help in contraction of the uterine muscles so that the sperm can easily reach the egg in the female body. I repeat, prostaglandins helps in contraction of the uterine muscles. Why it is required? It is required for the easy movement of the sperm towards the egg in the female body. The second gland is the prostate gland. Now, position of the prostate gland, we all know it is located underneath the urinary bladder or surrounding the urethra. Okay, the position of the prostate gland, as it is seen in the diagram, is surrounding the urethra or present on the posterior or beneath the urinary bladder. This is prostate gland. It is again single. The fluid which is secreted by the prostate gland is called as prostatic fluid. It is known as prostatic fluid. The chemicals present in the prostatic fluid is citric acid, citric phosphate. These two chemicals, they protect the sperms from the acidic environment of the vagina. They protect the sperm from the acidic environment of vagina. The third gland here is Cooper's gland. Cooper's gland, the position you can see, it is present on the either side of urethra. This is Cooper's gland. You can see it is present on the either side of urethra. It is present in pair. The fluid secreted by the Cooper's gland is again alkaline. It contains mucus and it acts as a lubricant during copulation. Lubricant means it helps in the process of copulation, that is intercourse. Okay, so that the sperm can easily travel up to the egg in the female reproductive tract. Now, next question is a note on semen. Now, semen is a reproductive fluid in male. In short, you can say that it is the mixture of all the fluids secreted by the accessory gland. That is seminal fluid, prostatic fluid, and the Cooper's gland fluid, along with the secretion of the ejaculatory duct, that is the sperm. So seminal fluid plus prostatic fluid plus Cooper's gland fluid plus sperm forms the semen. Here it is important that the pH of the semen is 7.2 to 7.7. It shows that semen is alkaline. You can see here that in a single ejaculation, it contains about 400 millions of sperm and it contains secretion of epididymis, accessory glands. So altogether, you can write down the functions of semen as nourishment because it contains fructose, neutralization of acidity in the female tract as it contains calcium and bicarbonate, and also for the activation for the movement of the sperm as it contains prostaglandins. Now let us start with the external genitalia in male. As discussed earlier, in external genitalia comes penis and scrotum. Now here these terms are very important. Penis is a male copulatory organ. Now what do you mean by copulatory? Copulatory, the meaning is the organ which is used for intercourse or the organ which is used for injecting the reproductive fluid in the male into the female tract. That process is called as copulation or insemination. Penis is cylindrical, muscular with three bundles of erectile tissue. It is a copulatory organ, so it is an erectile organ. And as it is an erectile organ, it shows presence of three bundles of erectile tissue. You can note here the three bundles of erectile tissue. First, on the posterolateral side, there is presence of corpora cavernosa. That is on both the sides you can see there is corpora cavernosa, and in the center there is corpus spongiosum. In this way, there are three bundles of erectile tissue. two corpora cavernosa, and one corpus spongiosum. There is a swollen tip present at the penis. It's called as glans penis. The swollen tip of penis is called glans penis, and this tip is covered by a loose fold of skin called as prepuce. It is called as prepuce. So, in short, penis is a male copulatory organ. It is an erectile organ. It is the organ through which the male reproductive fluid is ejaculated in the female reproductive tract. The next external genitalia organ coming under external genitalia is scrotum. As discussed earlier, scrotum is a bag in which testes are located one when it comes out of abdominal cavity. So it is a loose pouch of pigmented skin lying behind the penis. It is divided into right and left scrotal sacs by a septum of tunica dartos. So it's very difficult for you to understand this. You can simply write down that scrotum is made up of smooth muscle fibers called as dartos tunic muscles. You can also say them to be dartos tunic muscles. The testes are retained in the scrotum, or you can see the testes are attached to the scrotum by a short fibromuscular band, called as gubernaculum. The name is gubernaculum. By means of gubernaculum, the testes are attached to scrotum. The testes remain suspended in the scrotum by a spermatic cord. This spermatic cord you can see here in this diagram which shows a list of testes. Here this is spermatic cord. By means of this spermatic cord, the testes are attached to the scrotum. Now, what if the testis fails to come out of the abdomen? That is, they don't come out of the abdomen and retain in the scrotum. What will happen? So failure of testes to descend from the abdomen into the scrotum is called cryptorchidism. It leads to a disease called as cryptorchidism. The failure also results in sterility. Cryptorchidism, or individual suffering from cryptorchidism, is infertile or it suffers from sterility. Now see the overall function of scrotum. This helps in maintaining the temperature of the testes lower than the normal body temperature, and this temperature is very necessary for spermatogenesis, that is for the formation of sperm. Thank you. आता आपलं रेकॉर्डिंग बघायचं का कुठून बघायचं मागे मागे जाऊन बोलू बोलायचं पप्पा झालं ती बोलते आता रेकॉर्डिंग हा हो बंद झालं मला ऐकायचं